like to call to order the meeting of Monday, June the 11th, and if the clerk would please take the roll.
Councilmember Archibald?
Here.
Councilmember Ashford?
Present.
Councilmember Harris?
Here.
Councilmember Lamb?
Here.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Here.
Councilmember Warden?
Here.
Mayor Rep.
Here, you have the minutes from the regular meeting of May 29th. Is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Ashford. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Archibald. Is there any additions or deletions?
Mayor Rep.
Councilmember Warden.
I did have one addition. This last meeting that we had, it was resolute, it looks like 18033. It was accepting the single source from Segway Inc. about $14,000. And I just want to have, I think it'd be good to have in the minutes that at that meeting that requested and just inquired if the purchase of $5,000 or more went through the purchasing committee for the city per the city ordinance and per the charter and needed to have approval, and the answer was no. So I think I'd like to have that added on the minutes there, that agenda item did not go through the purchasing committee for approval before coming to council. Thank you.
That's not normally something that would be in the minutes. The minutes are only actions taken and the votes on them, so that would not be an appropriate thing to add to the minutes. I can have the clerk respond to that if she'd like to, but basically, as a previous clerk, I can tell you that that is not something that would normally be in the minutes.
Okay, that was my
Okay.
request. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on. All those in favor of the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Minutes will stand as they were submitted. Before we move on to the presentations, I'd just like, because it's important, I'd like to go on and just acknowledge that before we came to the council meeting tonight, we were at the McMorran Lounge giving the Spirit of Port Huron awards to some very deserving people who have contributed a lot to our community. So I would like to at least go through and let you know who those award recipients were. For Brotherhood, we had Deacon Dennis Crimmins from Holy Trinity Parish. Civic was Ernest Worth Toward from Blue Water Habitat for Humanity. Cultural was the Port Huron Art Initiative. Economic Progress was Mike Taylor, who owns Fuel Wood Fire Grill. Tio Gordo's Casino, sounds like a casino. Lake FX Grill. A Good Neighbor, Teresa Moran and family. Heroism, John Baxter, Douglas Gorgian, Larry Lautner, and Stephen Markle. Lifetime Achievement, Ralph Polovich. Lifetime Achievement, Isla Shoulders. Youth Service, Madison Adair and Riley Shagana, and Alexis Briggins. It was really a nice ceremony, and all of those people were very deserving of their awards, so I just want to acknowledge those publicly. I also would like to, I was remiss at the program in thanking the city clerk's office for all of the hard work that they did putting this program together, sending the invitations out, notifying people. It's a lot of work, so thank you.
And also it was a packed house.
And it was a packed house. There was over 200 people there. We had standing room only, which is really nice. So we will move on now to the agenda of presentations number 1.
Certificate of recognition will be presented to Max McCullen for earning his Eagle Scout Award.
If Max would join me at the podium. Nice to meet you. Got a lot of badges there. You've done a lot of work. I'd like to read the Certificate of Appreciation. Whereas on June 10th, 2018, Boy Scout Max McClellan from Troop 104 was recognized by the Boy Scouts of America for successfully completing all requirements for Scouting's highest rank. And whereas we are gathered here on this occasion as friends, family, and neighbors of Max McClellan to support him on his accomplishment of the rank of Eagle Scout and to recognize the faithful and steady path taken within the Scouting organization. And whereas Scouting for both boys and girls has been an integral part of our community as well as a positive influence for many years. And whereas Max finalized his Eagle journey with a service project for the Hunter Hospitality House in Port Huron, which is an example of the many contributions he has made to the community. And whereas Max is a junior at Port Huron Northern, where he's an honor student and a member of the marching band, Max is also an usher and volunteer at his church and is an amazing brother to his 5 siblings. Now therefore, I, Pauline M. Rep., by the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Port Huron, and on behalf of council members Archibald, Ashford, Harris, Lamb, Ruiz, and Morden, do hereby issue the certificate of appreciation to Max McClellan, Eagle Scout, for this outstanding accomplishment, and extending to him our deepest appreciation for all of his dedicated work, and wishing him the best in all of his future endeavors. Congratulations. You want to say a few words?
Thank you.
Just thank you? Okay, that's good, that's good. There you go. Thank you. It's nice to see the youth of our community accomplish so much. We're sure your parents are very proud of you. We'll move on to the second presentation.
John Hardiman will give a presentation on a proposed new welcome sign and fountain for Pine Grove Park with funding provided by private donors and/or fundraising.
Hello.
Hello.
Mayor Rep, council members, Mr. Freed, Cindy. About 3 years back, I was invited to a picnic at Pine Grove Park on the South Lawn, and we stumbled upon a fountain that's decommissioned. And we talked amongst our groups, what would it take to get this back in working order? So 1 year ago, I was thinking, driving by Pine Grove Park, and I said, I need to reach out to Nancy Windsor and see what the feasibility of doing something like this. And so she was very, very, very helpful. After that meeting, we set some goals to replace the current fountain with something that still complements the aesthetics of the park, build a fountain that would draw more people to that area, and create something that offers an impact statement for visitors visiting and entering our downtown district. In 2 weeks' time, we will be asking the council to approve a resolution allowing to start collecting funds for this project. Our plan is to fund this installations through art and public works grants, supplemented through local private donations. Our target build date is the spring of 2021. So, if you mind, I'll show you what we came up with.
Sure. Oh, I guess we can see it on here now.
This is the, you guys can see on the screen.
Yes, we
also.
can.
All right. Basically, our design elements are based on this arch that's been there since, I believe it's since 1907. The location, this welcome sign will be on the hill, angled towards the north side traffic, and the fountain will be exactly where the current fountain is. This is the proposed welcome sign. This is the fountain.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then the fountain at night.
Wow.
This is the back side of the fountain. And basically, the footprint is 25 by 50. We're going to build a fence 3 feet high in order to make sure people don't jump into the fountain and climb into it. And then we'll surround it with shrubberies. And then the actual centerpiece itself will be 6 feet high. So that's what we're asking for you to consider in 2 weeks.
Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
Looks like a nice project.
Thank you.
We'll move on to public hearings. Number 1, please.
To hear comments on the amended application for an obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate for 802 Military Street for 12 years. Following the hearing, the council will consider a resolution approving the application.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the city council this evening on public hearing number 1? Seeing no one, I'll declare public hearing number 1 closed and ask for a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Archibald. Is there a second?
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford. Is there discussion?
Mayor Rep, could somebody brief us on why we are going to add another 6 years to this exemption?
I believe David Haynes is going to get up and answer that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The reason that you have an extension before you tonight is that we've been in discussions with with the City Flats Hotel, and part of the packaging requirements going to the state for their participation with community revitalization programs and some of the tools they can bring to the table is the local city's contribution. And part of that is either through a brownfield or through an OPRA, and in this case, it's the OPRA. Because there has been some delays in the initial construction, and that could be in part also due to going through the process with the state, that does take time, and also some of the issues internally with some of the materials that need to be removed. There was a delay, and that actually went into their original 6-year abatement. They're requesting an additional 6 years as well. And again, this abatement only occurs on the balance between the original value of the property and then the increased value by the investment. So it's that gap is where you see the abatement. So they're requesting an additional 6 years.
Okay, yeah, I had a question from a contractor who was doing work there on how it was kind of flat, and evidently this will answer the question. So this isn't increasing anything, it's just
Extending
lengthening
out.
it. Yep, okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, it was 6 before, and we can't go over 12. So
Correct.
this brings them to 12
Correct.
in this, okay.
The maximum.
Any other discussion, questions?
Mayor Rupp?
Councilmember Warden?
Yeah, I think, are they typically just 6 years when they start, or some of them are 6 or 12 to start? When are these?
Typically 6.
Because that's a pretty big project there, and take on that big of a thing, it's going to take, multiple years to demo and then get going. So would that have started from the start of even demolition, of starting just kind of, is that why it started it was December of 2015?
Beg your
Because
pardon?
as far as the starting, from them to purchase and to start, get this Oprah tax abatement starts from the time they take ownership or time they start?
It actually begins when the certification that came before the council is then submitted to the state.
Okay,
That starts the clock.
okay.
And once
Yeah.
that certificate was submitted in 15, it started. And part of the process also was because when they got into the Sperry's building, that required more work than anticipated as well. So that drew more of their efforts into that direction.
Okay. Yeah, just my comments are, this type of thing is just a huge project. This is one of the tools that, is very valuable and helps us as the city to attract that type of a major investment to take on. It's still, my understanding is still the taxable, he pays the taxes on as it was before he started this, and the amount of time it takes him to spend that money and get this thing fixed up and going. We're already, 3 years into this.
Correct.
So, yeah, I'm in full support of this. I appreciate your explanation of this, and I appreciate the amount of commitment and work on that project. That is something that, we definitely thank you for that.
Any other discussion, questions? Thank you, David. We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes,
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Now is the time for public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the city council this evening, please come forward and give us your name. You have 4 minutes.
Hi, my name is Randall Redlowsk. I live at 1402 7th Street, right here in town, and I'm here to ask you guys the question, why on earth are we continuing to put poison in our water? The water fluoridation, sodium fluoride, is a well-known and documented poison. It's been known to be a poison when they first started putting it in. The people that did put it in they pushed it through, they tried to tell everybody, oh, it's good for your teeth, which is a lie. It's not good for your teeth. You shouldn't even brush your teeth with it. It causes fluorosis. It's done it to my teeth, because when you expose your teeth to it for a long time and brush with high concentrations, that's in a toothpaste, when you do it like they show you on the commercial where you put a big gob on your toothbrush and you brush them for a long extended period of time, and yeah, I was very young and brainwashed, oh, it's good for your teeth, didn't think about it, but I'm going to brush my teeth and keep them nice and clean and white. No, it just ate the enamel right away from your teeth. We're seriously getting lied to like crazy. The dentists tell us that your tooth enamel won't regenerate. That's a lie. It won't regenerate if you're using fluoride. If you use other things and take the right minerals, you can go on YouTube right now about people that have popped fillings out of their teeth because their teeth have regenerated and grew back the enamel by taking the right minerals, quitting brushing with fluoride. There's many people that have, but we've been lied about the fluoride. It's a known industrial waste from the fertilizer industry that they couldn't get rid of. They are having trouble to get rid of. They had to pay a lot of money to dispose of it. So the people that were promoting asbestos and telling everybody that asbestos is fine and it's good for you, promoted fluoride and said nothing is wrong with it. And if you go back and do the research on why they put it in the water, it was because of this one area that there was natural fluoride in a well. The fluoride that goes in our water is not natural fluoride found in the environment. This is an industrial waste, and they put it in rat poison. If you just, use your common sense and read your toothpaste, if more than what is used for brushing, or if more than a pea-sized amount is swallowed, call poison control. Well, the amount of fluoride in an 8-ounce glass of tap water is the same amount in that pea-sized amount in your toothpaste. Fluoride builds up in all your tissues, it mineralizes in your bones, it accumulates in all your organs, it calcifies your pineal gland, which is one of the most important glands in your body, which is really being hidden from us, but people are waking up and finding out about this. It's the part of it releases all kinds of hormones and endorphins. If you want to talk about getting all these people that are running around here shooting heroin and doing all that because they're looking for something to make them feel better because their brains aren't producing the natural endorphins they should be. That's why everybody is getting sick.
Excuse me, your 4 minutes are up.
Okay, well then I guess I'll just have to keep coming back. Because this is like a serious issue. I don't know why you guys want to blow it off and just keep putting, let's just keep putting it in there. The facts are out. I mean, you guys should be digging into this. This is worldwide all over about the problem.
Thank you for sharing your information with us. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the city council this evening? Please come forward and give us your name, and you have 4 minutes.
Excuse me. My name is Alex Mackin. I live at 1703 16th Street. Had to let the ground settle after that one, dude. First, I want to withdraw my consent from your allocation of resources to this meeting on the grounds that I shouldn't have to pay for cult practice on government time or special benefits for related organizations, and that the meetings here have been made private briefcase affairs. I mean, it sucks we can't have our backpacks in here anymore, right? Womp, womp, womp. Really, one of the big issues is that you still haven't addressed the misprint of the special assessment blight roll and the sewers. And, I mean, we haven't heard anything back. My wife really can't complain about it, and you said you dealt with it, or it was already done. And, you know, I feel overall you've misused time and resources to make decisions largely based on appearances. And you've used appearances to justify manipulating this process. Use an in-crowd and out-crowd games to color the narrative and generate and destroy coalition, simply by having naughty words, a dress code, and by praying in the beginning of the meeting. You keep a whole segment of the population out. You know, a lot of times, secular working class coming home from work. You've used special assessments and the fear of being blighted to generate a stream of revenue for policing standards and normalizing the policing of normative standards, and take part in an industry based on violence. No one is paying attention. No one is paying attention, and you hook up your buddies all the time, and it's just, gog. We can be involved in this process. Now, the council members, y'all can help us to start legitimizing this process by depoliticizing our city manager position, and maybe putting him down here with the rest of the city employees, and reallocating some of the money. Oh, wait, or we could replace the city manager with software and use some of the money to do good things for town that everybody needs, like put in a sidewalk to the post office and bike lanes and run the buses on Sunday. Next. For humans, for all you humans, next, the voting process is currently corrupted by thousands of grandmas that know you're not looking, and that you have it built into your bones to trust the elders. But this deserves close scrutiny. And really, inherently in the voting process, we have one fatal, serious problem with the whole problem. There's no confidence vote. If a registered voter doesn't vote, it's a no confidence vote, meaning that if there's more non-votes or no confidence votes, we arrange plebiscite of forum to evaluate the failed forum for lack of quorum. That means failing to meet the minimum amount of citizens of the population turning out to engage in group decision-making, decisions that are defensible on the grounds that a majority of the population turned out to make those decisions. We should also consider ranked choice voting as well as direct digital democracy. It's time for a new Port Huron statement. It's time for a new normal. A citizens union, mutual aid network, and resource community. If you want to talk, let's get organized.
Mr. Maycomb, your time is up.
Wednesday,
Your time
7
is
o'clock,
up.
1703
Mr. Maycomb, I'll have to
16th
ask
Street.
you to be removed if you don't remove.
Come down to my house, ride bikes.
Your time
and
is
we can
up.
talk.
Mr. Maycomb, your time is up.
Y'all have a weird one. You too, dude.
Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the city council this evening? Please come forward, give us your name, and you have 4 minutes. Seeing no one else, I declare public comment closed. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Lamb. We will take.
Mayor Rep, sorry.
Councilmember Warden.
Can you remove ordinance 18-011, the second reading and enactment, number 1?
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll take the vote on the other items on the consent agenda.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes?
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. There were 4 items adopted, scheduled two public hearings for June 25th. to hear comments from persons interested in the maintenance costs of the Huron Avenue Streetscape project from the north side of Black River to the south side of McMorran Boulevard, and also the Military Street Streetscape project from the south side of Black River to the north side of Court Street, and approving the various resolutions for the declaration and preparation of special assessment rolls and other matters associated with the special assessment districts. Approve the reappointment of Charles Anter, Master Electrician, Robert Nelson, Licensed General Contractor, and Richard Welser, Master Mechanical Contractor, to the Construction Board of Appeals with terms to expire June 30th, 2021. Confirm the city manager's reappointment of Steve Gurney as a rental property owner and Margaret Millam as a tenant to the Rental Housing Board of Appeals with terms to expire June 10th, 2021. We'll move on to, from the city manager, item 1.
Accepting a bid from Signature Ford in the amount of $46,368 for a 2019 Ford F-450 4x2 service truck equipped with a hydraulic liftgate for use by the Utilities Division.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford, is there a second?
Second?
Councilmember Lamb, is there discussion?
Madam Mayor, just a quick explanation. This is replacing one of the heavy-duty Ford trucks that we already have in service. This carries all of the major equipment for replacing valves, pumps. It's used for heavy lifting. That's the reason for the 450. I did ask if there was any local vendors that submitted a bid. We had no local vendors that submitted a bid. They were reached out to. So that is just a little bit of follow-up in addition to the supplemental.
Is there any questions?
Mayor Rapp,
Councilmember Warden?
just wondering, the current unit, are we keeping that just as kind of a backup, or are we going to be
I'll let Lenny speak to that.
maybe trying to sell it for, salvage some money?
Madam Mayor, Council. Councilman Warden, the existing vehicle is 201. It's it's one of our workhorses for the fleet. Unfortunately, it's so severely rusted now that it's presenting a safety issue, and no. The only thing we will be able to do is remove the tools and some of the appurtenances from this truck and remove them, but we are not going to be able to reuse this. We're going to have to sell this as we do all the other vehicles. We're not going to be able to reuse it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Ashford.
Lane, just quickly, under necessity of the purchase, you mentioned here the current unit has severe rust issues on the service body, the steps onto the service body and the lift gates, and is becoming a safety issue. The specifics behind that safety issue?
In that the chassis is, it shakes, and the rear is, with the lift gate that lifts, has got to carry heavy pieces of equipment and tools, and it is not really, getting to the point where it's not safe.
Oh, okay.
That's purely it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? Discussion? Thank you, Lenny.
Lenny, why don't you stay up there?
Oh, you might be, yeah.
Yeah.
Better sit close. There might be
Stay
questions.
close.
Is that, no, you don't have to stand right there, but we will take the vote on item 1.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item 2, please.
Accepting the quote from CRB Crane and Service Company Incorporated in the amount of $6,888.94 for the repair of 3 overhead cranes at the wastewater treatment plant.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Support.
Councilmember Archibald, Mayor Pro Tem Ashford. Is there discussion?
Yeah, Mayor,
Yes,
Rep.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford.
yeah, Lenny, can you expound upon the extent of the repairs of the cranes?
Yes, ma'am. Again, Madam Mayor, Council, this particular item is brought to you because several months ago, we inspected down at the wastewater plant, and we found that the cranes had a number of parts that needed to be replaced to bring up to standard. They're not safe. We had to replace the slings, rope assembly, drop cord assembly, and a number of wrapping drums. Anyway, we ordered the parts. They're in. They need to be replaced, or at least we've got them all together, and this is the order we need in order to make the repairs to these overhead cranes to make them safe and usable. We can't use them otherwise.
Okay. And this is sort of like a violation, a compliance violation if you don't do this? The cranes
Yes, ma'am,
or-
it would be.
I beg your pardon?
Yes, ma'am, it would be.
It would be, okay, thank you.
Any other discussion, questions? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes?
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. Item 3.
Accepting the proposal from Reasonable Construction Services Incorporated in the amount of $62,065 for the roof replacement at the mausoleum in Lakeside Cemetery.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, seconded by Councilmember Lamb. Is there discussion? Could we have a little more explanation on that? I know.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, before Lenny comes up and goes into detail about this project, we have one bid tonight. That is not for lack of trying. The roofers are so busy right now that we can only get one bid on this project, one proposal. And the reason why I moved forward with it tonight is because the facility is taking on water. The longer it goes, the more damage that is done into the inside. We have gotten a lot of complaints from family members who have loved ones there about the water and the seepage. And so Lenny will come up and talk about the design of the roof proposal if he can, from an engineering aspect.
Well, Madam Mayor, Councilman, Mr. Freed pretty much told everything.
Well, tell us what we're getting then.
Yes, we've had several iterations of this particular proposal because of the fact that it's got a multiple set of roofs, different designs, different materials, and it is failing and it's taking on water, and the water is seeping in the inside and creating almost hazardous material. Things are falling from the roof in there. Because we've got multiple roof types, we've gone through several iterations of proposals looking for the best solution. Reasonable Construction was the only respondent who was able or willing to deal with all the separate roof issues, and that's why we have one tonight. And we really do need to make this repair. We've been messing around with this for well over a year at this point, trying to find a solution.
Mayor Rep?
Yes, Councilmember.
I guess my only question is, how far off the mark is this on what we expected to spend?
Well, that's a moving target, sir. We have been trying to nail down just exactly what needed to be done in order to make it work. And the problem is, the first couple of times we estimated the work, we found that, in fact, it wouldn't solve the problem. And so we've had to kind of expand, because it's got a pitch roof, it's got a flat roof, it's got a rubber membrane roof, it's got caulking and marble, and all sorts of material interfaces that are seriously a problem. We needed to come up with a solution that just took care of it all. Or move everybody out and put them somewhere else.
That'd be a little difficult.
Madam Mayor, if I could say, one of the things that I was pleased about this is, as Lenny mentioned, this has been many reviews on what the project scope is, and that is because Lenny and his team actually brought in roofing experts and said, do you think this will fix it? And at one point they said, no, we don't think that's going to fix it. Like, we'll take your money, but we're telling you as people who do this, we're not sure if that's going to hold up. And so the fact that Lenny's team was able to take that expertise into consideration and going back and revisit, that is really why we revisited the project several times, because we wanted to hear input from people who do this every day of what will actually work, and that's what this reflects. So that's why I felt confident bringing it tonight, because I knew they went back and said, from what we think works and what a guy who goes out there every day and works on roof knows, certainly trumps that, and so that factors it in. So I thank Lenny for going back and asking that input from the builders.
Mayor, I think Councilmember Ruiz hollered first. So.
How old is the mausoleum? How old is it?
Nancy, do you know how old it is?
Whole building, whole building.
Yeah, it's
And
old.
I'm grateful that you've gone back, but we have one, do we have one bid? Multiple?
One.
No, we have
One.
one.
Are we positive? I mean, this is a local contractor. Are we sure this is going to I mean, it sounds like it's
At
almost a
this point-
specialty type thing.
Yes, sir. At this point, because of the fact that it's got multiple different surfaces that are required in different levels, we're confident that the proposal that we received from Reasonable, and in fact that we've gone back and forth, we're going to fix the problem. We didn't want to, and Mr. Freed has been out front on this, is we don't want to spend $40,000 and find in 2 years that it's not going to work.
I heard that, and that's a good explanation.
Right.
Now, in terms of the mausoleum itself, where the roof are there any structural things going along that, at that age, that looks like needs some other work?
The fact that the stone that's in the roof is getting infiltrated by water, and in the freeze-thaw cycle every year, it causes cracks and causes wider cracks and more water infiltration. So we had to address that. It's got a sloped roof that ties in. It's not a simple type of project, and that's why it's taken so long to get to this point. But at this point, I can say we're reasonably confident that once we're done, we're going to have a roof that keeps the water out of the inside.
And the stone itself structurally will be solid, or is there something looming on the horizon?
I can't speak to how long it's going to last, but we know we need to get the water from infiltrating before we can affect any other repairs. And right now, it's still standing, and we want to maintain it standing. We considered the possibility of having to tear it down, but we don't really want to do that.
Right.
Madam Mayor,
Understand.
just a reminder, a couple of years ago, we did a significant tuck point project on that facility.
Yep.
And so restored, what was that 3 years ago, Nancy?
Yeah,
About 3 years ago, I was here for it. So, yeah, we did a significantly tuck point where they went in, fixed a lot of the joints, and that really added a lot of life to it. That was about $36,000. We did that 3 years ago, I believe. I want to say it's in that wheelhouse, right around $36,000.
Do we have that, school districts and such always have a schedule. Do we have something, so we're doing every couple of years, revisiting that?
Yep.
That's a good move. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? Councilmember Archibald.
Lenny, is this a total roof replacement?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so on here it says replacement, so they're not replacing the whole thing?
We are replacing great parts of it. We're overlaying some parts of it. But yes, it's essentially a replacement. Some parts are still good, but that's the rubber membrane that's in the middle. It's the edges that are the issue. So, in fact, we are going to be replacing, for all intents and purposes, the entire roof.
But we will still have 3 different roofs,
Yes, ma'am.
not one?
That's
total?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Rapp, sorry for
Member
asking
Warden.
some great questions, which I appreciate. The material used is probably multiple, but is there any warranty on some of these roofs, or 20 years for certain material and that? Are we shingling, or are we using the poly, the rubber roof in a certain section, or what material is there? And is there any warranty that goes with the product they're putting on?
There is, but the membrane itself is going to be good. I'll have to double check to make sure, but I believe it's good for a year. The shingling has a 20-year life, and I'd have to look. The caulking is not going to be good for more than a year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mayor Rep?
Councilmember Harris.
Just one following comment. As a consumer, I had Reasonable do a Duralast roof about 10 years ago on parts of my home and stuff, and the product is good. The quality of the workmanship is excellent, so.
Nice to know. Thank you. We will take the vote.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. We will go to resolutions. Number 1, please.
Authorizing 10 payments.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Second?
Councilmember Lamb, any discussion, questions?
Mayor Rep?
Councilmember Harris.
The change order for the MDOT River Street project, $15,123. I guess it just kind of jumped out because it's been almost a year since the project was done. Is there any specific reason that we're getting this bill now?
Which one?
It's 1-6.
Oh, okay.
Your question is, because it's a year later?
Yeah,
Yes, sir. The problem with MDOT has always been that when we finish their projects, we are subject to their payment requests for a year and a half. And this is no different than any other project we've done through MDOT. The change order itself is nothing more than reconciliation of units for equipment for material that was placed on site and labor that was used. So it's not out of the ordinary for us to get bills from MDOT for up to a year and a half later after the project is finished,
all right, thank you.
unfortunately.
Any other questions on the bill payments? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Warden,
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald,
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes,
Councilmember Lamb,
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz,
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item 2.
Accepting the quote from CE Power in the amount of $420,545 for the purchase of a Siemens GMSG arc-rated switchgear at the wastewater treatment plant, and approving the agreement with Tetra Tech Incorporated to provide professional engineering services for the replacement of the switchgear.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford, is there a second?
Second?
Councilmember Archibald? Lamb? Okay.
Madam Mayor, before Lenny gets up here to explain the technicalities of this, this is a total project of about $1.3 million. We initially estimated about $750,000 for switchgear. Lenny's team was able to locate through their due diligence a unit at a much lesser cost for $420,000. When this is approved tonight, there will be a second contract, which will be probably $500,000 to $600,000 later on for construction of a facility to enclose it and the engineering that goes with that as well. So in total, you're looking at about $1 million to get this thing installed. This is just one component of this project. So we will be coming back to you for the installation of the facility and whatnot. Now Lenny will get up and explain the technicalities because that's way out of my pay grade here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, Council, if you recall the budgets workshop that we did last month, and I happened to mention the single most expensive item on the budget was for the wastewater plant and the replacement of the electric gear, that we did a thorough check of the high voltage, the 4800 volt switch gear that runs the entire wastewater plant, and noted that we were having many problems, many breakdowns because of the age and the atmosphere within the wastewater plant. We had some minor fires during the inspections, and we got a series of proposals actually from the consultant who was doing this work, and we accepted the one which we said we are going to have to replace the entire switchgear, and the best solution is to take it out of the inside of the plant and put it in an outside contained structure tied in. If you recall, I discussed that. This is that project. This is the first half of that project, in which we just happened to have found, fortunately, out in Illinois, a company had the same problem, but for whatever reason has declined receipt of this switchgear. It was recertified to fit ours. Because everyone is unique, they had to double check to ensure that it would work for our purposes, and in fact determined that it will, at the savings of over $250,000 and at least 6 months of lead time to build it. So we wanted to move quickly and authorize the purchase of this piece of equipment while it was still available, and save ourselves both the lead time and the money. That's your technical review.
There you go. Anybody have any questions?
Mayor Rep?
Yes, Councilmember
I
Harris.
guess my question is what is Tetra Tech? I mean, there's a rate structure in there on their hourly wage, but what is their anticipated cost with Tetra Tech?
Well, we are anticipating that we still need a design engineer to retrofit and to oversee the installation of this particular piece of equipment. They did the design work for it, and what we need is just contract management is really what this is for the inspector to ensure that it's installed properly. And that's why we have included their rates as part of this particular resolution, because we're going to need them to do the work in preparing this and the overpack during construction, doing their inspections and reports.
So it's not going to double the price of the job?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Ashford.
So the engineers are doing the spec for this
Yes, ma'am.
project?
They
So
have
they're doing the spec.
specialized engineers.
Okay, and what's the timetable on this?
The original timetable was on the order of 8 to 9 months from inception to completion. Now we anticipate we might be able to get it done, once we give the go-ahead, we might be able to get this done by the fall.
Okay.
But don't hold me to that. Don't tell anybody I said that.
I ain't holding you to nothing. I'm just trying to get to the bottom line.
We want to get this done as quickly as we can, because otherwise, in the interim, we're working on, we have, as I told you before, we had to put safeguards in place to ensure that the equipment that we're using is safe and operable, but it really is in need of replacement as soon as we can get it.
Okay, just so your memory, I wasn't at the meeting, so you're Band-Aiding as we speak now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's on a Band-Aid, okay. And so, and then you have here, we have a savings of at least 250,000, so we're saving that, and if we had to do this, it would be to the tune of 670,000 something, with that. So where are you getting the savings from? That 250,000?
The budget that we submitted for approval for this fiscal year was 1.3 million for this entire project.
Okay.
We anticipate we should be able to finish this for just over $1 million. That's where the savings is coming from.
Oh, okay, that's excellent. That's great to hear. Okay. Okay, and should this be two resolutions or one, or you just throwing the engineers in there just at one and get it over with?
We put it on to
Just-
get it over with.
Just to
That's
get it
correct.
over with? I thought so. Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other
Thanks,
questions,
Mayor Rep.
discussion?
Mayor Rep?
Councilmember Warden.
Yeah, just, the wastewater treatment plant, do we just have one of these electrical, the switch gear? We have one that runs that part, and now,
Runs the entire plant.
yes, so we're replacing that, and this outside, what brought about, is there other communities that are doing this standalone outside building for that equipment instead of where it's at? Is that a common thing that's, like what?
Yes, but I couldn't tell you who they are because this is the first one that I'm aware of in Michigan. There was another one that was going to do it in Illinois, but I couldn't tell you who else is doing this. Who else has a
So potential
40-year-old
access for-
40-year-old wastewater plant that is completely enclosed like we do. We have a
Yeah.
very unique situation.
So it might help for access if something needs to be worked on there, it's easier to get to, is that
Yes, sir.
part of it?
We're putting this in a spot in the parking lot adjacent to the building so that it's outside of the hazardous environment that has high nitrogen and high humidity. That's truly, and the sodium involved is the one that causes the arcing and causes a great deal of degradation to the equipment. And after 40 years, this equipment, they said basically we need to replace the entire unit.
So I appreciate the, again, tracking down and finding something that another, either facility elsewhere did not take acceptance of this, to get this piece of equipment, so that gets us a discounted potential rate and availability. I just want to play devil's advocate and just find out, did we check in, or was it public, or any way to see why they turned that down, or why they decided against it? Was there another city or municipality that might have had some discussion, or
No idea.
any idea?
No idea.
Okay, yeah, I just was wondering if we're grabbing something, but they figured something else out. And as far as the some type of a warranty or length of time on the product, now that we're getting it basically recertified to ours, is there some type of a duration that they're going to stand behind it, the manufacturer, on that for a certain amount of time?
Yes, sir, and I believe that standard warranty is a year. I don't know yet because we haven't fulfilled our contract. We haven't actually purchased. I don't know what their conditions would be. Once I do, I'll let you know what conditions we have for warranty and for replacement of parts and labor and workmanship. Yeah, but that's going to be one of the things we do when we finalize purchase.
Yeah, I do just want to note, I think in this agreement that's attached, it had the professional engineering services not to exceed $115,000. it looks like a section in there. Is that what we're expecting to be the total for this? I think was it Tetra Tech for doing this, or is that just a
That's
certain?
not to exceed number. They gave us
Okay.
a number that said that. it would
So
be
we're
up to
looking
that
at
or-
420,000 plus that for this particular item?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I appreciate the hard work in finding the potential savings of $250,000. That helps. Thank
Madam
you.
Mayor, I just want to point out as well, it's not that the unit was rejected by another city, it just wasn't received, so they could have changed the spec for a project. They needed a different model unit. It wasn't as if the unit was faulty and they took it back. So I don't want that out there, that we bought a $420,000
That's correct.
flawed unit that someone else didn't want. It's not a lemon.
Thank you. We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item 3, please.
Approving the combined St. Clair County Association of Fire Chiefs Mutual Aid Agreement and the amended Michigan Mutual Aid Box Alarm System Association interlocal agreement between participating political subdivisions to secure emergency support during an emergency, disaster, or other serious threat to public health and safety.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Support.
Councilmember Archibald, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Ashford. Is there questions?
Madam Mayor, just to give a quick explanation. We have Chief Main Guy here tonight. This is replacing, we have 3 current mutual aid agreements. This is essentially putting them all together into one, making it much more unified, simplified. This is actually Chief Main Guy's last meeting before he retires, and so it's only fitting that he leaves us with a statement of collaboration like the shared service agreement and the mutual aid agreement. I want to thank you for putting this together. Your relationships with the fire chiefs and emergency management in the county made this possible. And if you have any questions, Chief Main Guy is here to answer them.
Any questions?
I only have a question, but I have a comment, and I think this is what we love to see as far as running any city, is when we can partnership and come together as one in a working relationship, whereas we all win, together doing the same job for the purpose, on the good of the people. So thank you so much for your vision and your insight and your willingness to join hands with the others. Thank you.
Any questions at all?
Mayor Rep?
Councilmember Warden?
So the 3 into 1, this agreement, basically, we had it with multiple, can you explain what this is kind of combining? And as far as the, reciprocal, as far as input on the, the fees that are recovered to each community you're offering it, and I read through that a little bit. If what has kind of changed, or is it pretty much a balanced understanding where everybody helps out each other, or does each different entity, do they get to charge, determine their prices or fees?
Certainly, be glad to answer that for you. Mayor Rupp, Council Manager Freed. These 2 agreements, as most of you recall, have been before you in the past. The county mutual aid agreement, there's actually 2 agreements, not 3, not to
Sorry about that.
misspeak,
Sorry about
Mr.
that.
Freed, but the county agreement gives us partnership, if you will, with every fire department in St. Clair County, meaning none of us are strong enough to handle a large enough incident single-handedly, so we combine our resources. And that was approved by previous council in 2013. The MABUS agreement, the Michigan Mutual Aid Box Alarm Agreement, allows us to actually leave the state and gives us legislative powers under this agreement that we could operate in adjoining states that are partners to these larger scale agreements, such as Hurricane Katrina, a large storm event in Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, anywhere that might call us. As far as the fees, we have to agree, as do all communities, that the first 8 hours of that is at the expense of the participating governing body, in fairness that not everyone would be able to recoup costs. However, if there are costs recovered by the jurisdiction that had the event, then those fees are looked at and spread about the agencies that have deployed resources. So it's, and to bring these agreements together is upfront a housekeeping agreement. They both have the same provisions, one locally, one more regionally, They both have an out clause of 30 days. If any party to those wanted to give notice and withdraw from those, you could do that. So it's just bringing them all into one document.
Madam Mayor, if I could, I did ask the chiefs, Battalion Chief Nicholson and Chief Main Guy, I just asked them to be point blank, are we a donor community? Meaning, what are we getting? Is this equally balanced? And they said it's about 60-40.
We actually ran the numbers over a 3.5-year period from January of 15 to June 6th, just of this year. We've received mutual aid from our adjoining partners 70 times, but we've provided it 81. So it's it's pretty close to even up, and it certainly depends on a lot of factors go into that, the type of incident, the time of day, which community we're helping, and which communities help us based on need. So, and it's difficult to predict. I mean, that certainly is, we're in the unpredictability business. So I would say it's fairly balanced at this point.
If there was based on your operating procedures, if there was a large Domtar was fully engulfed, without a mutual aid agreement, would we be able to handle that on our own?
Not with the daily allotment of staffing that we have. It would resort us to do two things. We would have to reach out to mutual aid, which is an immediate, and call another adjoining department. What happens with that is sometimes there's delays built in, depending on the type of agency you're calling, for them to assemble enough staff and leave their community. Or we also have the availability to call back off-duty city fire staff, but of course that is much more time-consuming and takes a while to implement because all the individuals' staff are coming from their homes. So it's definitely a tool that we consider in the short term. So.
If I can just give a quick anecdotal story. I was with Chief Main Guy in his vehicle. We were traveling through town last week when we had that incident in the Black River. While I was in his car with him, his phone rang, and it was Chief Miller from, I believe, Fort Gratiot, Port Huron Township,
yes.
Port Huron Township, and he said, just to let you know, I'm going to keep people at my station, so in case there's an incident in Port Huron, you guys are all on the river right now, we'll be able to cover you. That type of instant collaboration, that communication that goes on, a lot of people don't get a chance to see that relationship, and I think it's important to highlight that, because I was listening in thinking the fact that the chief from another jurisdiction would say, I'm keeping some people here near our truck in case you need us in Port Huron, because we know you're out on the river right now. It's just a testament to the relationship you have with them, so thank you again.
Sure.
Mayor Rep, if I may continue, I just had a couple questions additional on this. Are we going to have a read in here about the Michigan mutual aid? Where is it based out of, and are we going to have anybody that's part of the executive board, or can you give me a little? Just read as I read through how that's set up and who's going to be determining things. What's our input, and how big is that thing?
The mutual aid district that Port Huron encompasses is chaired by Chief Miller in Port Huron Township. And if you take, for instance, a global fire service in several states, they're broken up into smaller jurisdictions that they call divisions, and we're part of that for our region and our portion of the county. And they simply meet and elaborate on documents like these to make sure that everyone is on the same page in response. So we have input at the County Fire Chiefs Association meetings, which are held monthly, that I have attended, and Chief Nicholson will continue to attend. And we have a voice in both agreements, and this is another piece of combining them together to give us equal voice in both of these groupings or both of these guidelines, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, I just was reading through, I was trying to evaluate how that organization is structured and if we have a say. So, and that's pretty much for Michigan.
That's for any state, any agency or any division of any state that's party to the mutual aid box alarm agreement. So that could be the same parameters for us as it is for a city in Ohio and a city in Illinois or Wisconsin. One thing I do want to also clarify with you when you mention us having a say, both documents are clear that give the decision to the on-duty shift commander, the on-duty battalion chief in charge of a city. We still have the opportunity to decline that service if we are committed on another incident or if we feel that that would jeopardize our taxpayers are our citizens, and we have a request made to us that is going to make us too short-handed at the time, there's occasion where we have to make those decisions. We just have to know that that also could be the case when we reach out for help, that they're not able to assist us, and that, of course, forces us to reach further and extend our requests, which we now can do.
Yeah, it's outstanding. So I really appreciate your help in explaining this, and I think it's for the safety of our community and helping even others to have something organized like this that we're a part of. So I appreciate that information and keeping us involved in that. Thank you.
Mayor Rep,
Councilmember Ruiz.
thank you, Chief, for being such a good chief the past few years. And I'd like an honest answer to this. When you walk back, will you be thinking about how this is the last question you'll have to answer?
Oh, that's not fair.
I'm going to tell you what I'm going to be thinking of is Pastor Thompson's message where he talks about we don't know what lies down the road ahead. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. Here I stand at a crossroads, and I'm up to the intersection, and I have to rely on the good Lord to give me the guidance to take the right street because we don't know what lies ahead. I would like to say, if I could take just a few minutes,
Yes, please do.
it has been my privilege to serve this community in various capacities for the past almost 32 years. From police cadet through communications operator and all through the ranks of the fire department. I'm thankful to current administration for allowing me to do that, previous administration, previous councils, and most importantly, the residents for allowing me to serve and allowing my team, our team, the fire department and the police department and all of the emergency responders to serve. Because if it wasn't for the previous administrations giving an 18-year-old guy a chance out of high school and enrolled in college to have a job, then who knows where I'd be standing. But it's been my pleasure, and I thank you.
Well, congratulations on your retirement.
Mayor Rep, you're here, maybe standing in the back, and you may not know about tomorrow, but I think that you know who holds tomorrow. All right. Congratulations. Mhm.
We need to take the vote, do we not?
We do. Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. We'll move on now to ordinances. Number 1, please.
Second reading and enactment. An ordinance to amend Chapter 48 Utilities, Article 4, Water and Sewer Service Charges, Section 48-161, Assistance to Senior Citizens of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances for the purpose of increasing the annual adjusted household income amount to not exceed $15,000 for providing assistance to qualifying senior citizens with their monthly charges for water and sewer services.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Harris. Is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Warden. I assume, Councilmember Warden, that you had discussion.
Yeah, the reason why I took it off the consent agenda, I try to do with some of these second reading enactment is first just to ask if there was any communication at all that was received or feedback from the first reading that might have came in regarding this potential new ordinance.
Nope, nobody complained about a bigger discount.
And I just also want to take this time, again, Councilmember Harris, he mentioned last meeting, it was 7 or 8 years of trying to get, raise this limit to help some seniors and some of the, with this property, and I just, with the $15,000 as the first step, I'm in support of this, and we'll see how the ramifications are for the financial side of it, and then, as we know, some of the other communities definitely have higher limits of income that can qualify, but I think the right step is to take the small step first to see how it affects and how it helps. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. Item 2 under ordinances, please.
Ordinance to amend Chapter 52 zoning, Article 3, District Regulations, Division 1 generally, Section 52-162 map of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances to rezone the property generally described as 2240 10th Street from an M1 zoning district to a C1 zoning district.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Archibald. I don't know why you two all of a sudden start on the same to me. Is there discussion?
Mayor Rep,
Councilmember Warden.
did this go through the Planning Commission first before it came here on this issue, and wanted to hear about, if it did, kind of what prompted it and what the feedback was?
I'll have David come up, but just for clarity, anything zoning related in the Michigan Planning Enabling Act has to go through Planning Commission. So if it's a zoning ordinance change, it can just be assumed that it went through the Planning Commission. David, can you come up and give us some explanation?
Did you get any feedback about our changeover to the... Good evening. This is a request that came to us to rezone this section. This was an M1 zone. This was formerly the Dunn construction site. It has subsequently sold, and its current use is being leased out in various sections, including a fencing company. So the true use of it today is more in of alignment of a C1 zone than an M1 zone. And as it comes before us with use certificates, we have to consider what the current zoning allows. So when we have a commercial request in an M1 zone, that's something we have to look at and then possibly deny. So it made more sense for this to actually conform to its current use, which is a C1 use. So it's almost a housekeeping item to basically have it conform to how it's being utilized.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other discussion, questions? Thank you, David. We will take the vote.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Rapp?
Yes, that concludes our agenda. Is there anything to come before the council? Anyone?
Madam Mayor, I just want to point out that this is Chief Main Guy's last meeting, but we have Chief Nicholson will be taking over. Chief Plaster took the oath, and he is now the Chief of Police for the City of Port Huron. We'll do a formal changing of command ceremony in the last week in June for both positions. But it's been a tremendous honor to serve with Chief Main Guy. He's done an excellent job. When we were going through the budget issues, we sent him on a lot of trails and bunny and rabbit holes to go down looking for savings and looking for options. He traveled around the entire state of Michigan, visiting fire departments all over the state, asking how they did things to reduce costs and save money. A lot of people don't know that, but he traveled all around the state and saw our comparable communities. But we're very thankful for your service. I feel very blessed that I was able to find good talent in-house. We have wonderful department heads. Our city engineer, our planning director, our police chief, and our fire chief have all been replaced since I've been here. We have about 50% of our employees retiring in the next couple of years, so there'll be a lot more of this. But with such good department heads, you could probably replace me with some software.
Mr. Freeman.
No warranty. But thank you for your service. Excellent job, all of you.
Yes, thank you. I was going to acknowledge that at the end of the meeting, but he stole my thunder in the middle of the resolution, so thank you. He couldn't wait. Is there anything from anyone else? Then I'd entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
Move.
Meeting adjourned.